long do you think you'd be able to survive out there? I don't think I'd survive very long at all. That's right, here I am with the OnePlus 10 Pro. Now, here's the thing. This phone has actually been out for a while now in other markets, but it just came out globally and here in the US, where it is confirmed to be working with Verizon networks, but it has some trouble for AT&T. I'll talk about all of that stuff a little bit more in a future video where I talk about what worked and what didn't in this new OnePlus smartphone. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and get into a camera test. You know the drill. I basically vlog with this phone, and we see how it fares during a typical outing. Now, as per usual, I'm not going to be trying literally everything out in this camera app. It's more of a practical look at the camera that is in my pocket at the time, and it might be in some of your pockets pretty soon as well. So keep an eye out in the corner to know what part of the camera I'm using in each clip or in each photo. Let me know any of your thoughts in the comments, and to see more camera vlog tests from me, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And with that, let's get into this lovely day that included my namesake tree and some good friends. I think I have been here once. I was really young, and I mean, I should be here more. It's named after me, or I am named after it, or something. These are all my trees. I thought my parents brought me out there as a child, but I found out after getting back that they never did. For all of the pun humor that my father has and that I definitely inherited, I am actually a little disappointed that my folks never thought to bring Joshua to Joshua Tree. But as you can see, the conditions in this beautiful desert oasis just north of Palm Springs were super sunny, so lighting was never an issue during my couple of hours spending in the park. My first thoughts when I went through these photos is that the saturation levels could be a little higher, but that's more of a stylistic thing because actually the colors are more often than not true to life. I mean, this is a desert, so the trees are beautiful, but the greens are definitely not super vivid because of the environment. It's a little bit dusty out there. I do notice though that there's a bit of a color boost when the phone hits HDR. That mostly happened when there was a lot of shade thanks to the towering rocks. And in those photos, the contrast was obviously more evened out, but I do notice that the colors get slightly more vibrant as well. Now, the wide-angle camera is obviously a nice thing to have in an area like this, but if you really want to go nuts with the wide angle, there is this 150-degree ultra-wide camera that can fit way more into the shot. Those photos have way more distortion though, and then you can go even further by going full fisheye with it, which is cool, I guess. You can also get into your zooms as well, and in this case, it was allowing me to capture far reaches of the nothingness. But the sensor is only 8 megapixels, and so the results are definitely far from ideal. And of course, I have to give my usual complaint when it comes to these phones, the fact that there is no 4K video recording available on here. To me, this is super weird because it's a 32 megapixel shooter. I can excuse having just decent zooms because I don't use that very often, but having higher resolution selfie video would have made this smartphone better for vlogging and for social media quality. You look way down in the distance and you just think to yourself like, wow, imagine like making the walk from here all the way to over there, like... Anyway, later in the day, I did meet up with the homie David Amell. He was actually in town because he was helping to host an event. That event was with beers and cameras, literally a weekend of photo walks and film photography enthusiasm in Joshua Tree National Park. Everyone here's got crazy cameras. This guy right here is why I came all the way out here. Beers and cameras. Check the description below. If you're at all into film cameras, check out, of course, David's stuff as well. But also, there's a lot of film photography people here, including Moment, one of the people from Moment, Taylor. By now, you might notice some flares in some of the photos. I mean, it was a very sunny day in the desert, and when the sun was just overwhelming the area, I guess it was just inevitable to get some flares in the shots. So here comes the next little story. We all know that the Hasselblad branding that started with the previous generation OnePlus smartphone is now on the 10 Pro, but it's also showing up in other places like the Oppo Find X5 Pro. Hasselblad obviously has a rich history as a pioneer in the film age, and since I was around film photography enthusiasts, well, I just had to ask them what they thought about this name appearing on a smartphone. Color me only slightly surprised that most of them didn't even know that this was a thing, nor did they really think it was going to make too much of a difference in their purchasing decisions. That's mostly normal if you ask me, because if you have appreciation for something as specific as film photography and Hasselblad in that context, you probably care more about the overall experience of shooting with those old school cameras. I mean, sure, Hasselblad tries to add their voice to the ultimate results coming out of the camera, but let's face it, as nice as this camera shutter sound might be, it's definitely not the same as actually holding one of those Hasselblad cameras and feeling that sound happen. One other thing I needed more of an explanation on was X-Pan, an extra mode that looks like a super wide-angle shot, but what is actually happening here is that the main sensor is being cropped so that you get this really acute aspect ratio. Admittedly, it looks pretty cool, but it might not always be practical. I asked David and a couple of the people who were there where X-Pan actually comes from, and I learned that it used to be an actual camera that specifically shot that aspect ratio onto film. And the interface here is actually what you would see when you're looking down the viewfinder, with these lines for guiding you in terms of your composition, and yeah, this is what it would look like as you peer through that viewfinder. I guess that's all pretty cool, if not super niche, as a specific type of camera, film or not. The interface even goes through the animation of actually showing that you are getting the exposure. I mean, ultimately this is like a retro callback, and only actual enthusiasts of Hasselblad or film cameras might even know where this actually comes from. Which is funny because I was clearly in a niche group of people that knew where it came from, but it clearly didn't make them as excited to get this specific smartphone as it would have made them to, let's say, actually hold an original X-Pan. To each their own. So like with most smartphones, the OnePlus 10 Pro did just fine documenting this fun day out with my best friend and a group of new friends. There was a bit of a side result to me hanging out with that group too. Oh, well, I got bit by the bug, and now I have my own film cameras as well. Kind of walking around trying to get certain pictures with it, but it's nice to have a smartphone. No matter what smartphone really it is, with the OnePlus 10 Pro, it's pretty solid cameras. Yeah, it's nice to have a smartphone around so that if I can't get a shot using this right here, well, at least I can get it some other way. I know I and many of my peers have kvetched over this Hasselblad branding, what it actually means, but the bottom line is that the OnePlus 10 Pro is just another exercise in understanding limitations with the brand's cameras. We've gone through this whole back and forth for many years and many different generations now. There's nothing particularly bad with the cameras, and people that like to stick with OnePlus won't find themselves too far behind the competition. But there isn't really much setting this camera apart from the rest of the pack, even with Hasselblad providing their insight. And the pack is getting pretty fierce, with other phones like the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro providing that compelling Google-powered camera experience at around the same price point or even lower. And so, there you have it. Those are just what some of my feelings are with the OnePlus 10 Pro, but of course this video was all about actually spending some time with it and vlogging with it, in this case in Joshua Tree National Park. A quick shout out to, of course, my best friend David Amell. It was great to see you, buddy, and to the Beers and Cameras crew that I got to hang out with in Joshua Tree. I actually now own a couple of film cameras because I hung out with them. Let me know your thoughts by hitting the like button and sounding off in the comments down below. For more videos like this made almost entirely using a smartphone, make sure you subscribe to my channel. But from there, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.